Hello and welcome back to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. The podcast that the New York Times described as quaintly venereal. Today we're
Yeah.
getting to the second episode of HBO's The Regime. Potato steam, country medicines, force feeding lollipops, and everything in between. And joining me once again, guys, they are my two favorite frequent flyer confuckers. It's Lola Day and Aisha. How are you
Woo,
guys
woo,
doing? Welcome
woo.
back.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I love that we finally start
Yeah.
getting some of the succession level insults and Veep level insults.
Yes.
Frequent flyer
Yes.
confucker is one is as like that was one for the books. That was one for the books. You guys we talk about episode 2 of The Regime.
Yeah.
Let's get
Um
Excited.
into it.
Before all of that, guys, quickly, the Oscars were last night. And if you're listening to this, then our live reactions podcast is probably already out. Or if it's not, it should be out in the next few hours. Don't worry, our sweatshop is very hard at work. Speaking of underpaid workers, it's a busy week on the podcast this week. It's a 4 episode week. So later this week is the cinema's Dune 2 reactions will be out for your listening pleasure. And then that will be quickly followed by Ebuka, Victoria, and Asagale reacting to The Return of Invincible Part 2 on the 14th. So yeah, it's a 4 episode week this week. How do you keep track of all these episodes? Well, subscribe on the platform you're listening on right now. If you're currently listening or watching on YouTube, please subscribe, please share, and please give a review because that really helps us reach more people. The Regime, episode 2, titled The Foundling, written by show creator Will Tracy and directed by Stephen Frears. Um, Actually, before we go into the episode, I'd like to start with the title sequence. Um, and anyone listening to this, please feel free to send your interpretations of the sequence. I think I would love to discuss whatever ideas you guys have with Aisha and Lolade. But I don't know. I was trying to really focus on the sequence this episode because I think there's obviously a story there. Because like with most well crafted shows, it's not a mistake. They know what they're doing. And like the first thing I caught was that like there's a degradation of the flag, and you kind of see like through clips a history of Europe or the European region. You see like wars. You see things that are probably meant to be like the world wars. That's probably like World War Two. Then with the introduction of like camera surveillance and America's intervention in all these countries, like the flag basically becomes tatters and then it flies off, and then it seems to come back with the introduction of Elena, and then the flag is like all brightly colored and no tears. So I don't know. I found that interesting. I was like, okay, what kind of story is the show telling? Is it saying that Elena is actually a good leader? Is it saying that like is he really pointing the finger at America and America is like because in one of the clips there's a clear there's a U.S. presidential convoy coming in. So I was like, okay, what exactly is the story? What exactly is the show trying to tell? So that was just I wanted to like obviously I'm assuming maybe you guys haven't taken note of that, or if you have, I'd like to hear whatever opinions you have. But yeah, I just wanted to point out the title sequence and whatever story you might be telling there. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I funny enough, I actually paid attention to that as well as funny as on the second this episode watch.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed what you noticed too. Um Yeah, I wasn't really sure what exactly it was trying to show us. Was it like a foreboding or not? I wasn't really sure. But it did remind me because at the same time I'm also rewatching Veep. And it did remind me of like just small things that they tend to like drop in that
Mm-hmm.
maybe are indications of maybe not what's happening, but where we are at the moment. Because I was struggling to figure out as to like what universe are we operating in, with this
Mm-hmm.
show. So I think that gave maybe a bit more clarity as to where we are at the present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something like if anyone is listening, if you have any theories, if you have any,
Tell
we have,
us.
yeah, like I said last week, we're recording slightly early, so we there hasn't doesn't really be much press about the show just yet. I'm sure
Yeah, we're
somebody
doing
will,
this all from our brain, by the
yeah.
way. So,
If you see any like
um,
great take, that's all us. If you see any terrible
from
take, it
our
was a mistake.
brain.
Yeah, it's just like
So,
I do
yeah,
here.
you heard it here first.
You did. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, guys, we tend to have some very, very, very smart listeners, especially on YouTube, who like comment. So
Or
if you have any
Reddit
ideas, let
at
us know.
home.
I will discuss them. Okay, so what we're gonna
Any
do?
Redditors, please come
Yeah,
and
I stay
tell us
away
what
from
we've done
Reddit.
wrong.
That's one social media. Like I go there if I have a particular question. I don't know how people browse Reddit.
Why?
It's so daunting to
It's the
me. Reddit is so
Reddit
funnest thing
is
to
so
daunting.
much
browse. It's the
fun.
funnest thing to browse. Yeah, exactly,
It's
Lola.
It
so
Like it's
seems
much
so
so
fun.
it
fun.
seems so daunting. Like there's just so many subreddit everything. Once I hear the word subreddit, I'm just like, oh, it's like it
Yeah.
always feels like there's a layer to everything. It's so daunting to me. I can't. I just go and have a particular question, or if I know a particular subreddit thread I want to go on.
They're
I don't
actually the
know.
best
Just browse
people
Reddit.
on Reddit. My people. Love
Oh,
them.
I don't disagree. I've heard well, not only good. I've heard good things. I'm just like also, I don't know. Anyway, is that like other Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Like, is there's a homepage. There's one page where you can stay on if you
Okay,
want.
I see. I see. I
Reddit
Hmm.
feels
see.
like every time, like even when I'm looking down a particular thread, it's just like threads upon threads. I'm just like, I just want this one story.
This
And I'm
is
also
what they
someone who
call
like
maximum fun, Bankole.
okay, we have a different definition of fun. But I'm also someone on Twitter like if a you know how people like, oh, I have a story. If a thread is more than 5 tweets, I'm not reading it. I'm just not.
Really?
Yeah, unless it appears on my timeline like 4 times in a day, I'm like, okay, this is something serious. But if it's like if I see a thread and it's more than 4 tweets, I'm not reading it. If I see a tweet that is like somebody that has Twitter blue and is a long, I'm not reading that tweet. I just like I'm on
So
Twitter
you
to.
obviously didn't watch the 50-part TikTok of why did I
Oh,
get
I did
married?
not. I did not. I
You
heard
didn't
about it
watch
last
that?
night. I did not. I had someone listen to part
You didn't
seven
you didn't you
yesterday.
didn't watch it being you didn't watch it
Yeah.
transcribed. You didn't read
Oh,
it transcribed on
I could
Facebook
never do
for
that.
the
Even like back, this will probably I don't know if this will show my age or whatever. When the Zola tweet first came up,
Napster.
Hmm.
Napster. No, this the Zola tweet about the stripper that went to Florida and all of that. That was I can't remember when that
Oh
one in
yeah.
2013. Like I
Yeah.
didn't read it until like later in the day because everybody was talking about it. Anyway, okay. I don't know how we went on that tangent. So what I've done this episode is I've divided our discussion into two sections. We're going to start with
Let's go.
Kate Winslet and Herbert's relationship, and then we'll talk about like everyone around them. I
Okay.
love that she was actually calling him Herbert this episode. That kind of vindicated our decision led by Lola Day from
Yeah.
last week to refer to him as Herbert.
Yeah, but
Herbert.
there's also
Yeah.
something so funny about that
Hmm.
and also
Oh,
so sad about that.
yeah, like it wasn't a mistake that they called him Herbert. They know what the name Herbert sounds like. Okay, so please stop me anytime if there's anything you want to talk about. Like I said, it's not really a breakdown. It's just kind of like bullet points. It's been 3 weeks since Elena's greening of his speech last episode.
Hmm.
Herbert is now the chief of Palace Health and Safety, which is not a made-up title at all. He's more emboldened in sharing his views on like politics and policies and everything, and they're also having more frequent dates in their dreams. In this episode, they have a what they both refer to as a spicy dream. Um, I, as a man, I cannot blame Herbert for having. Sorry, that's redacted. Can we continue? So Elena is also.
Okay, Bankole, like let's just not even. We know, okay? Why don't
What
you
do you
just
know?
say it in the out in the open that
No
you
need
have
for
the
it to be
hots for Kate
redacted.
Winslet? Like just
I'm
say
just.
like it's fine. You wish that you were in those dreams. You wish she was dreaming with you.
I mean, you're saying it, and I would not say you're wrong, but I just also cannot say it because I don't know who's listening to this podcast. My future wife listening to this podcast, so I'm just trying to be very mindful and
All
not
right.
annoy my future wife if she's listening to this podcast. Okay,
Your
so
speculative future wife right now.
Ugh.
yeah,
That
you don't know.
that could actually appreciate your keen desire for Kate Winslet. You never know.
Well, I would like to test that in person. I don't want to risk it out on
Fair
online.
enough. Fair enough. Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
I Elena
Oh
Elena is
man.
live posting her meeting with, which I should mention that America is sending a senator played by the great Martha Plimpton to come and negotiate on their behalf, and
Yes.
she's
Hmm.
basically live posting her meeting with the senator. I can't remember what she said, which is, I'm going to give her hell or something, which is like so
Yes. She said
clearly
It's like
a
we're
dig at
getting
gonna
ready
Trump.
to
give
give
her.
her hell. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, that's so like basically like Trump live tweeting a meeting with the presidential in a presidential meeting. Okay, so Martha Plimpton, Senator Hope, comes in to try and placate Elena with some very generous offers, but then she later follows up with a dagger. And I, just like last week, I felt like I had to write this down, the conversation they both had, because it was like, well, we'll talk about it, but let me just say what they said first of all. So, this is Elena to Senator Hope about America. She says, "We let you dig our earth. We provided refueling and airspace support for your wars in the Middle East. We handed you hundreds of dossiers on supposed Russian cyber terrorists working in our country. We swerved China. We let your CIA run its black site here, right here on our sovereign soil. You shoveled your shit on our doorstep for years and told us we were happy to eat it." And which is like, okay. But then Senator Hope replies, "I might add, we also shoveled a bit of investment your way as well, and a bit of patience while you worked out your civil and press freedoms." And I just thought that I like that conversation because like it shows like the shady quid pro quo that happens in international diplomacy.
Mhm.
Like you can say somebody giving more, somebody taking more. It's just like I don't know if that's probably a different discussion, but it's like yeah, like America would on one hand shout, "Oh, this country is not respecting human rights or whatever," but then they'll be quiet about the other country because they have what they call it, they have ties with them. Or the smaller country like can be like, "Oh, America, you're taking advantage of us," but also they're not like calling you out on the things you're doing to journalists or the things you're doing to your poorest citizens. And I just felt like if that's what the writer is like, if that's what the show is trying to say in terms of like pointing out, I guess, hypocrisy maybe, or also just like the way governments work. I don't know. Just I thought it was like it's not nothing new, obviously, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to throw in the middle of the episode. Did you guys have any thoughts about that? About Kate Winslet reading America for Filth again?
Lolade, do you want
Um,
to take the lead?
yeah, sure, of course.
Alpha lead.
I did, like you said, I did really enjoy that conversation, like that back and forth. Like
Mm-hmm.
what Elena was saying, she wasn't wrong. It's what we know America to be doing, even like in real life. It's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not strange for her to say that. But also what the Senator Hope was like saying back, like, okay, yeah, we did that and like you benefited from it, like we gave you this, we gave
Mm-hmm.
you that, like
We turned a
what are
blind
you
eye to
saying?
this.
Yeah, like it's tit for tat, and we were all in agreement until now all of a sudden you're saying you're not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I also think it's like brings us back to what we were discussing last week, like you guys were like it's a whimsical show, but it was nice to see like that level of like seriousness in that conversation.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we're going, sorry, Aisha, I'll get to you in a second. But if we're going larger picture, I definitely think like the whimsy and quote unquote seriousness was way more balanced this episode. Like the
Mm-hmm.
whimsy seem to be more in the background. Like the potato thing happens in the first minute, and then you start seeing it in literally in the background of scenes. But like it's not something that is, it's not text anymore. It became subtext very quickly, and that's kind of what I liked. Like he still lathers, was he mustard on her chest or whatever? But again, it's like it's very well balanced because, and I think another thing was that I realized episode that other people realize how weird things are. Like her husband is like looking at like what the fuck is going on? This doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. It would have been one thing if everyone was just like, oh yeah, he's pouring mustard on her chest. But like everybody's like, what are you doing? So but anyway, sorry, Aisha, what yeah, your thoughts.
No, I'll agree on the whimsical level and balancing of that. I think they've done a really good job in like establishing where they are at and what the tone of the show will be moving forward, and I think that's rather clear. But yeah, what you were mentioning, Bankole, is true. Like you realize that everyone realizes how weird Herbert's, what would I say, herbal remedies,
Natural
quack
Mm.
medicine
medicines. Natural
Country
medicines is what they
uh,
call
medicine.
it.
is natural medicines is and received as weird by everyone else. But I think it also shows, I think, what maybe the first episode now in hindsight was probably trying to show, which was when someone has complete power, everyone falls in line. So in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of everyone has to accept. So when she had her whole phobia of microbes, phobia of like dirt and
Mm-hmm.
bad air and all of that, because she is, the sovereign, everybody has to. just pretend like that's
Fall
normal,
in line.
know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
fall in line with that. So I think now seeing this second episode, it shows kind of what they were trying to show about her complete power and what she had and how that really is changing. And then when we talk about the ending of this episode, you can kind of see that, what they were trying to show in juxtaposition to the first episode as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's that. And I think overall, I just think it was just a really nice, well paced episode as well. Like you were
Hmm.
never really, there was no dead air where you were thinking what's going on. Everything was like, made to fit the story and was
Yeah.
so I would say.
Um, Senator Hope offers to Elena and her country, so she offers access. She has much greater access to the president and to the financial levers. She promises to ease export restrictions on their country. She wants to reopen the American school in their capital. She says full NATO membership. She says help with EU membership, which I think, like, on paper, those are like really good deals. You can see actually,
Mhm.
like, the NATO thing. You can see how that, like, kind of affected Elena. She's like, oh, that's a big thing. But then Elena, you can see Elena considering it, and then, like, the senator brings up them going back to the cobalt negotiations. She says, what does she say? Elena is like, our people need to respect it. And then I thought it was so interesting. Senator Hope replies like, yeah, we want you to feel like equals. Like, she didn't say we want you guys to be equal. She was like, we
Yeah.
want you to feel like equals. Like, oh, that's such, like, an interesting
Yeah.
word that and then you could clearly see Elena is beginning to, like, waver. And then I think she says, oh, she wants Elena to show trustworthiness first and follow the US's example. And I think that kind of blows up the entire negotiations for Elena. And then she has this kind of apparently mental conversation with Herbert. Before we go to their scare tactic, so we're going to talk about the ending itself, obviously, later when we're discussing the people around Elena and Herbert and everything. But in this conversation, she mentions the Fabian corridor a few times. I checked online. I didn't really see anything, any real geographical location about that. So maybe, I don't know if it's for sure. If anyone knows about the Fabian corridor, please let us know. But Senator Hope mentions that it's historically of great significance to Elena and her people, and that she wishes to reunify the region. And then I was thinking that tied along with what she said at the end of the episode about the founding's descendants helping them, I put it here in quotes, reclaim their destiny as the once and future kings of their beloved corner of Europe. It kind of gives I don't know, it kind of give an idea of maybe her aspirations going in future episodes. It seems like she might have some war ideas, or like at least expanding their territory, expanding their control. I'm assuming this Fabian corridor is obviously a group of countries that are not really fully under one government or fully under one, and then I don't know, she might have some ideas. So that's just an interesting, I think, to, like, keep note of when we go into episode 3. Um yeah, so Elena and Herbert put a scare on the senator thanks to the worst Secret Service agent ever. I hope he gets fired when he get back to America. I was just like, what are you doing here? Like, there's so many points where he should have intervened. What did you guys think of them scaring the senator?
Yeah, I
No,
loved
that's
it.
what. Yeah.
Exhilarating. It was lovely. It was really nice. I was like, oh, this is like this is what I want to see. you know.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off a bit comical, and then I was like, oh, she's actually really scared. She's starting to get a bit rattled now. And then yeah, I quite liked it. And I think I guess the whole point of that was to show, I guess, what, obviously what it feels like to like not be having the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they wanted to show the US. That's the message they wanted to send. But Banky, when you mentioned that thing about when she said feel like equals, it brought back the thought you were talking about her live tweeting and the similarity you made to a real life representation, which is Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think about like diplomacy. They say it's just all about how you speak and what like your word syntax and particular words you don't say and what you do say. Like there was this breakdown of Obama's stance on Palestine and how he didn't say and or but would say, I think would say and instead of but to like not contradict himself. So it's like it
Mm-hmm.
really particular things within speech. And I guess maybe that, is is kind of, you're right, is the thing that breaks it up. But I think what maybe they're trying to show is like the intricacies of diplomacy and maybe how it's all a farce, really, because you know, at the end of the day, like what really is it? And I think that's what maybe the show is trying to explore. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the
Yeah.
scare. I thought it was
I mean, those are
deserved.
like, that's the big heading over all these shows, right? Everything is a farce. Like capitalism is a
Exactly.
farce for succession. People that are in charge of multi-billion-dollar companies are just children with daddy issues. Politics is a farce from Veep and like Thick of It.
And the Veep
Tech
thing
is
is
a
so funny
farce.
because you're talking about this negotiation. It reminded me of an episode of Veep where she basically goes, "All right, I'll outlaw gay marriage," and she just
Hmm.
like throws that in, and she goes, and he goes, "Okay, that's not enough," and she goes to someone else, "Oh, well, I just freed this country. It's okay. I'll lock them back up. Like as long as you support me, So
Saying, am I a man?
everything
Melody,
is,
please just.
I did
well,
start. I was gonna tell you
um,
guys that I did start it.
oh,
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
just a
that's
couple
nice.
episodes in, but
Okay.
she doesn't sound too
Hope.
enthused
Yeah,
though.
she does it,
I
but
am.
I'm just
What?
hoping.
I'm
If you
just
get
like
to
two
like,
Okay.
episodes in.
oh, okay, you're still. How many episodes are in season one? 10 or less? Maybe like 8 or something. Can't remember.
I think. I
But
think
if you get
I'm
to
not
like
sure
halfway through
now.
season one and you're still not enthused, I'll just start sending you random clips, and then they'll
Yeah,
like
exactly. And
you
it'll
will
get
hopefully want to
you.
get there.
It'll
Don't
get
worry.
Because
you.
what Aisha just said sounds like incredibly terrible out of context, and granted, with context, it's still terrible, but like it makes more sense with context because like you just know who Selena
Yeah.
is.
And I think what's interesting is that, not to spoil it for Lauderdale or anything, is really watching them both side by side is crazy because you're looking at this show, which I don't think plans to run as long as Veep has ran.
Oh, I think it's a limited.
But
I think it's one season.
in yeah, so in this one episode, they've she's gone through the transition and her kind of her the people around her have gone through the transition of what Veep would have gone from season 4 to like season 7, or like the last season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's quite interesting, like seeing how the same thing is explored by different creators, under that the same kind of multiverse of like
Yeah.
Ainuchi and his disciples. But anyway, yeah, that's
Yeah.
separate.
I like that you guys mentioned how afraid Senator Hope was because that was what sold it for me. Because at first, when you realize what's about to happen, even from like when Herbert starts moving towards them, I'm like, what are you doing? This is America. Like, what do we think is going to
Do you
happen
know
here?
what? I hope they locked her up. I wanted them to actually lock her up,
Yeah, but I'm just like, do you want to start a
but they
war?
did it.
This is America.
I
But then when you
know.
see how afraid she is, you're like, oh, actually, it doesn't matter if she's American because like if she dies, there might be a war, but she's dead. Like the point is like she's still. It's not like oh my country will come back and
It's
like
true.
retribute her. Like she's still dead. But just I want to shout out some slight filmmaking in that scene when they're in like the large room and everything. Just for the filmmaking nerds out there, whenever we're solely on Herbert or we're in like wide shots, you see the camera is quite static to show that he's in control. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has no worries. But then whenever they switch to Hope and when the close-ups of her, it's shaky, it's handheld because like you see her agitation, you see her anxiety, and it's just like
Mhm.
it. And when they cut from one to the other, you get the quick whiplash of like, oh, this guy's fine, like he's in a wide, like there's things around him in the screen. He's stable. Then you cut to her, and she's like very agitated. She's very scared. Just I don't know something
Oh,
nice in the
that's
filmmaking. You're like,
nice.
oh, that's how they
Yeah.
transmit this kind of emotions.
Well, we know they're very good at handheld
Mhm.
camera.
Are we going to stop comparing this show to Succession of Veep? And when we do, well, actually, we're not comparing. We're just using it for like larger context, I guess. Uh, uh, I can see the comments already. Stop comparing the shows.
Yeah, but
Um,
I think another thing you did, I think you mentioned, but to add to it on this show in particular was her actually, Martha Pilmington's character being a senator made
mhm.
Elena quite annoyed because she wanted someone
Yeah,
quite higher up. So that's what you're
fire
saying
her
in
up.
terms
Yeah,
of if she were to die, would a war be started because she's just a senator? So like,
Mhm.
would they
it
start a
will,
war
it will be
based on
started.
like?
If
I mean, maybe. I mean, most likely, yeah, because she's still
something
in
would
the.
happen. Something would
But I
happen.
mean, it does highlight that probably maybe drove them a bit more. that
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it
I think she
wasn't
doesn't do
anybody
this if this
higher
was
up.
the president. She knows she doesn't do what she did if this was the president.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Speaking of filmmaking, actually, the shot of Herbert and Elena through the window after the senator is leaving is just really good with Herbert behind her.
really good. Yeah,
And then
Yeah.
yeah, like their whole scare session gets them all hot and bothered. They want to go more. He wants to remove all the toxic things she's ingested from her. He says like wants to from her body, and then she finally goes to sleep
nobody's
with her
disturbed.
husband after almost a year. Not that he's keeping track or anything, but they finally have sex. Um,
Which I wanted to happen actually.
were you were rooting for Nikki? You're like Nikki. I really want you to
No,
finally have sex with your
I
wife.
wasn't rooting for Nikki, but I wanted her to have sex with someone else
Okay.
and keep the you remember to keep the sexual tension going, but to not have sex with him. By the way, you guys all lost your bets. By the way,
Yeah.
remember the bets you
Yeah.
made?
There's
You all lost, and
I
yeah,
I
mean,
fair
won.
enough.
you said what, middle of three?
Yeah.
I said, wait, what did I?
I think you
I
Yeah,
said
think
you
I
no.
said
said then. Did I
3.
say then?
I think you said
Did
middle
I
of
say
3.
three?
I think
Yeah.
you
Oh
said
yeah,
three,
okay,
but
yeah.
you
I
don't
said
want it to
middle.
happen, but you predicted
I don't
three.
want it to happen. Yeah, I don't want it to
Yeah.
happen.
I
Yeah, yeah.
feel like now I'm feeling like it might not happen the way, but I mean,
So do I. I don't
like,
think it's gonna
yeah,
happen.
we'll get to the end. We'll get to what we're talking about.
I
Anyway, we'll
mean,
get
do
to the whole
trees
foundling thing.
count? I mean, they don't, but
Well,
like
no, because I don't
he
think both parties are involved.
That's
fair.
true.
Depending on how, I guess, depending on how much you believe their dream dates. I I think it's a one person situation with the dreams. Um, but I mean, even if it doesn't necessarily count, though, it does like it confirms it. It confirms the intention at least, if not like the actual act. Like before, it was just sexual chemistry or sexual tension from us, the audience, but
Mm.
now like the character, we know the characters are in that headspace. So I think like it's a good point. Like he definitely has those feelings for her now, which is like I know
Hmm.
we're joking, but like is a change of the relationship in one way or the other,
No,
and
definitely, definitely a
he
change.
mentions it and she doesn't like swat it off. So it's also like, okay, what's going on there? Um, do you want to talk about Bartos's ambush? This is
Ah,
when she invites the richest man of the nation to what
His
he
oh
thinks is
yeah,
a
yeah.
one-on-one conversation, and then there's press there,
love that.
and he basically dresses her. She basically dresses him down like a schoolboy, and and literally gives him a schoolboy punishment to stack the chairs. Um, yeah, I mean, I was gonna be like, just like Nigeria when, but even that we don't even have the leaders to do it, so it doesn't even count. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of that scene? Her actions there. I guess also we see Herbert's influence over her now in terms of like getting rid of people that either he doesn't agree with or he just personally doesn't like. Um, I think it's interesting that it shows that scene of Herbert and Bartos in which Bartos basically condescends against him. It's like, oh, it's nice that she has a rural plaything for now. So like, it's also like how much of it is Herbert not believing in his actual policies or also just not liking him as a human being and now using his chancellor girlfriend to take revenge. Anyway, what do you guys think of that scene?
I think it's more of a Herbert not liking him. That's where the punishment
I
came
agree.
from. I think
Hmm.
everything else was just proof to back it up, obviously, because he's not a
Okay, so you
good
think it's more
person.
personal than I guess
Yeah,
political.
I think it's
I
more
don't think
personal.
he. Yeah,
And
yeah. I
sorry,
don't
I cut you
think.
off.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't
Yeah,
think Herbert has a. I don't think it was definitely political at all. I really, really don't think Herbert is thinking in that way at all. And actually, I think that adds to his elevation as a leader because it's usually the people that don't think that way that tend to be elevated to
Mm-hmm.
becoming the person. And then you think about all these, and when we talk about the end, I'll mention this. But yeah, I don't think Herbert was thinking. I think he just didn't like the guy. He didn't like the comment. He also seems to have a problem with being undermined,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which shows in the way that I think he's deeply insecure, and I say that as in the like hopefully not the most simplistic way because I think his is expressed in a more complex manner, and I you see him beating himself up, and then we have the examples of his self harm, and which is really really sad to watch.
Just a
But
little
you
chucky chucky
see
tuggy
him,
in Nikki's words. Just a
yeah.
little chucky tuggy.
Yeah, and you see him go to that. So I think he tends to have, he can undermine himself and he can put
Hmm.
himself down. He can self-deprecate himself, but someone else doing it, I think, plays at his ego,
Oh, he's just like me
and
for real.
is a
He's just like me.
is a thing of,
Just,
should we be worried about you, Banky, if he's
I
just like
just
you?
like self-deprecating, yes. Insulting me, no. Sorry, I'm sorry. I cut you off. Finish your thoughts.
Yeah, no. So yeah, so I think he's very much that type of person. So I do believe it was a thing of, because even if you notice his facial reactions when that was happening, he was he was just a bit ticked off and probably just
Hmm.
thought at this point we're obviously seeing their lives, but we're not seeing their lives in a one to one. So you don't even know the amount of things that he has gotten from Elena at this point. So
Hmm.
like just basically going, I don't like this guy, fuck him. Like just no more day for her, but you know what I mean, in
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
life. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
Um, we are going to talk about the actual founding of everything when we talk about, like, at the end, when we talk about the other
yeah,
people and how we got to that point. So I'll keep that for a second. Uh, but I also want to say that I am the ghost of your conscience is an impeccable line and delivery from Kate Winslet. Um, Lottie, do you have any thoughts on Herbert and Elena before we move on to like the the people around them?
Yeah, there's like we said the tension. Like, do you mean thoughts on them together or individually?
Anything together, how the relationship has grown,
Okay, yeah.
what could be in
So
store.
together, there's definitely the significant growth. Like we see him calling her by her first name now. It's no
Mm-hmm.
longer like madam or mao, whatever. It's like you can see there's a very personal relationship between them. And the scene where they're having breakfast, where he's slathering the mustard,
Mustard.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even her husband was surprised. Like when she was asking him, what did we do? What did we get up to in our dreams? And he's like, what is going on here? What are you talking about?
Actually, Nikki might be my MVP of this episode. I just remember him saying, like, like we do have medical
Medical
degrees,
degrees,
and like
yeah.
it's like chemo and aspirin have kind of like helped the world. It was just like,
Yeah. He's like, what is this? Black
yeah,
radish, mustard, and like the whole, what did she say? Slap me up like a sandwich? I think
slap
that's
me
what
up
she
like a
said.
sandwich.
I don't
Stuff.
know. I don't know if we can consider it foreplay. Whatever it was that was
yeah.
going
It is
on
foreplay, I think.
Yeah,
between
food
them.
foreplay.
Ugh. I don't know. It's interesting. Herbert as an individual, like you said, Aish, I do agree with you. There's definitely
Hmm.
some insecurity there. He doesn't want people talking down at him or like just making assumptions about him. The whole butcher thing, he's definitely not a fan.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like he didn't like Emil. Is that his name? The billionaire guy? Um,
Yeah,
I
Emil Bartos.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't like him even before he made those comments to him, like when he was talking to Elena, because he was listening. And then after that
Yeah.
conversation, he tells Elena,
Yeah.
he's like, we're not
We're not
rats, you
mice.
know? Yeah, we're not
Hmm.
mice, you know? And
Yes.
she's like,
Yes.
it's okay. This is just how things are done. And
Yeah.
like, you can already tell he's made up his mind about him already. And then unfortunately, he comes back and he's like, it's
Yeah.
good to have some rural flavor. And he's just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, I think he had like I think
Yeah.
he had some policy disagreements with Bartos at first,
Hmm.
and then he had some personal stuff. Like it's like
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
personal stuff took you over the edge. That was way more because at first just like, but I don't think he even considered policy. It's just like him personally, just like I don't like this way for the country, and then now
Yeah.
you're being a
Yeah.
dick to me. So like, okay,
It's quite
Yeah.
um,
interesting as to like when you think about what bothers him, because when he enters the show, he's being incredibly disrespected in every degree. Like they're calling him a butcher, they're calling him Herbert. That in
Mhm.
itself is incredibly complex.
yeah,
But it seems like when they go into, because mining and farming, and these are all kind of like very earth
Yeah.
on
mm-hmm,
ground and very,
Mhm.
uh, and I think when you go into, I think them calling him saying rural as well is particular for him and really ticks him off because I
Mhm.
think it brings in the whole idea of the caste system as
Mm-hmm.
well, and going back to the feudal system with that
For
too, because
sure.
I think it's a thing. You can call him a butcher, you can call him Herbert, you can call him whatever, but when you start to disrespect, those people, then he's like, no, this is unacceptable. Which I
Yeah.
think actually maybe adds to, I think, his strength with Elena, like removing all the manipulation and everything, everyone's individual desires.
Hmm.
I think that is the strength that he gives Elena, is a sense of perspective outside of
Yeah.
her own
She said
lens.
last week, last episode, she said you're a nobody. And that means you can give me
Exactly.
the best advice.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
So
I think, yeah. But
yeah.
how far that has led,
Mm-hmm.
the issue with that is when you know, that's good on one end, but on the other
Yeah.
end, not being, not understanding
The
something,
intricacies and yeah.
the intricacies of it can also make you quite incompetent at it.
It's like
Hmm.
giving a
So
monkey a screwdriver. It's like, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I think I'll just
Yeah.
like final thing I would say about Herbert is that I like the fact that no matter what's going on outside and his like progressions and his promotions, like you can still tell that he's still like the broken person. Like we see how his room looks like. We see what
Hmm.
he's doing. We see the kind of personal self harm he's
So
doing. Just like
sad.
none of that is changing. Like he can walk around like the cock of the walk during the day, but when he's back in his room, like he's still that like mentally fraught person. Okay, let's go quickly to everybody else. Lottie, I apologize because we mentioned Veep a fair bit last week and we've done it a fair bit this week as well. But
Do you know what I think this is? I believe this is peer pressure and propaganda, which
It's
always work.
working.
yeah, yeah,
So I
It's
believe that
working.
we will
we'll get
get
away.
bloody
And look,
to
if there's
watch.
somebody here listening who needs a reason to start Veep, go start Veep. But yeah, I bring up Veep at this point because the one of the best things about that show is that Selena Maya was maybe not your personal favorite character, but she was the favorite. She was the best character. She was the best. Like it was her show, but also everyone else around her was equally as dumb, equally as mischievous, equally as like bad at their jobs, but it's also very smart and also like power hungry. Like it wasn't like that wasn't all just given to the main character. So, and I like that this episode we get to see more about of like the people around them, right?
Yeah.
We see this council of men who are actually just go straight to the men. I would like to say that something I love an older British man with a thick accent because everything they say sounds like it came from God. Like think Ian McShane or like the thousands of actors, character actors on this show. Like they just talk and you're like, yeah, that's correct. It's dumb, but it sounds correct. So the Council of Men, I don't know their names yet, apart from Nikki, obviously, who we confirmed this episode actually took her last name because he introduced himself as Nikki Vernum.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
he's also like I said that he might be my MVP of the episode. He's much smarter than I thought the show was going to make him, which is
Hmm.
very surprising to me.
Yeah, it is, but also I think a fantastic addition to the show,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's like it then makes sense, you know. Because I think this show is also so much about like what are people presenting to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and what are they presenting to benefit their own individualistic ambition. So it's like I don't know, everyone has a facade, that's being unveiled every episode. But yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah. No, so the first scene in the nightclub that Nikki hates, the Elena's
Perfect
chief
location.
advisor provides them with like Herbert's background check, and that includes what he did to his mother as a teenager. Um, and they are kind of like getting worried about his involvement in Elena's life and Elena's inner circle and how they are being pushed out of that circle. Um, Essentially, they would be Nick. I don't know their names properly yet. Intentionally, actually, I just want to call them by their archetypes. But you obviously have Nikki, the husband. You have the chief advisor. You have Schiff. Actually, I do know Schiff's name because he's like basically a sniveling. Like he's the terrible one. He's the one that like repeats everything somebody else said, and like he's the one that they're always insulted. And then you have the other one with the beard who is like you can see that he's the one that sees the biggest picture. He's the smartest one there. He's the one that like really knows what he's trying to do. Um, I like that they refer to themselves as the holding company. I think that's very telling
Yeah.
because the easiest way to understand this is that these four men, consider themselves as the real like manipulators of the situation, and Elena is their subsidiary. Like they feel like before maybe their Elena's dad died. And again, you can assume that they were probably all quite close with Elena's dad, right? Because they're probably close around the same age range. Before Elena's dad died, they were shadow controlling the country. Like Elena would come to them for advice, and they would say what they needed to say. And so I just when he referred to the group as the holding company, I was like, oh, that's such an interesting
Yeah,
phrase to
really
use
nice.
about yourself, about
Mhm.
four men and the female chancellor. That was just so interesting. So yeah, and then obviously they're worried that they're losing power over Elena or losing. They confirmed that like the finance minister and doctor are in prison, not dead, which was surprising to me. I thought they'll be dead by now. Um, do you guys have any thoughts on the first scene before we go to the fine? Oh, do you want to talk about? Let's go to find a good story scene. I'll just cover everything as one. So at the end of the episode, the chief advisor brings the intel from Herbert's room where you see the self harm he's been doing, and they think this will be enough to kind of get Alina back on their side. And Nikki's like, "Yeah, this doesn't work. This won't do anything." And it's like, you need to find a good story, tell a good story in a way that you can raise this guy quickly, so that Elena quickly loses interest. And then, okay, do you guys have any thoughts on the holding company? And then we'll talk about the story that they come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aisha, do you want to
Um,
start?
sure. Um, yeah, I really liked them calling it that as well. Um, it was quite interesting. I also really liked the location being in a nightclub as well. I thought that was quite quirky and really
Mhm.
nice addition.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I just say, because I thought he was going to cheat. Like when he leaves the room, I think, oh, he's going to find like someone. He has someone that he goes to at night because they say they haven't had sex for a year, and then he just finds out having this meeting in the nightclub with four older men. I was like, this is just so funny. Thank you, well done.
yeah, yeah, it was lovely. And it added a really nice kind of different kind of like color scheme grading to the show, which was really
Hmm.
lovely to
Yeah,
see, and it was like a really like refreshing.
yeah.
But I agree with you. It definitely feels like they're kind of like the puppeteers behind everything, and I think that's just very typical of like a lot of a lot of these shows, and I think is mostly what real life is, where it's actually the people around the leader that
Yeah.
do most of the decisions and tell the
Hmm.
leader what to say and what to do. Um, it bothered me because, as a female, I was like, no, not that there are four men running the country.
Mm.
Actually, that's a bit.
Yeah.
Don't think I like that. But I think
Wait,
I
sorry, wait,
enjoyed
hold
it.
on. When you say you don't think you like that, do you mean as in you don't like the show doing it, or do you don't like that's happening in this world?
No, no, no. I'm joking. Like like kind of like how can they do that in our girl bossification era of
Okay,
the
okay,
world?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's wrong. No, no, no. But I like the show doing it. I like the show
Hmm.
doing, it, and I think actually it was perfect. And I think it added to what we said at the start, which was they balance the whimsical because this balances the whimsical because with Kate Winslet alone, you know, it's quite whimsical because she as a person is quite quirky. So
Yeah,
this adds to it that like okay that there's some kind of underground doings of it
literally
that's
underground,
going
but
on.
yeah.
Another thing also with the Find a Good Story was Nikki was so right in terms of like that was never gonna cut it. That
Hmm.
story about himself, I mean, it would really have just endeared her more to him. And as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, this is not a good idea. It's not gonna work. Um, and also, I would really like that to be my life in terms of if I ever need any intel on anyone, I would love to have a committee that would bring me information on people I would have met, so I know whether they're
Yeah, but
like
then
planning to
you're in
kill
this
me or
position
not.
now because you don't know which information is real or true, or how are they trying to manipulate you to get the right response. That's
That's
the
true.
problem.
I guess. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think what you need to
But
do is
yeah.
you need to get the intel yourself. Get binoculars, get a
Yeah, but
pinhole
that
camera.
sounds like work,
It
frankly.
is. Also, make sure you do the shopping on incognito because you don't want someone like, "Hi, we saw that you were
Am I
ordering these
having a
things."
nice? To be honest, my name
Um,
is Aisha, so they would think I'm a terrorist.
you know
So
what? You see,
Oh
you
my
I
can't.
god.
shouldn't. I shouldn't. I've actually guessed. I mean, I guess my brother gets stopped at airports, but I also get stopped at airports sometimes. So, um, yeah, I definitely think that may not be a good line for me to go down on. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Digression. Lolade, your thoughts.
Um like I said, like you guys said, I really liked the name The Holding Company. I thought that was very funny. Um, their location, like their secret meeting location as well. Genius. Um, I do have specific thoughts on one person in the holding company. I think it's the head of Intel security, Mr. Laskin, whatever his
Oh,
name
tell
is.
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
What
That
are
I
your
think that's like
thoughts?
chief advisor. Yeah,
Yeah, I have noticed like in the last two episodes, she just ignores him. She never acknowledges anything he says,
that's true.
which
Actually,
is crazy to me. Like, she's just blatantly ignoring him. The one time she did acknowledge him, I think she acknowledged him twice this
hmm
episode, when they were having breakfast, and she's like, ugh. And Nikki is like, I think we've had enough. I think is
yeah,
what he said.
yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
think also when he's telling her about the
About the
foundling.
foundling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
Do
those
you
are
yeah.
think
my
do you think
thoughts.
that is going to lead to something like man scorned on a mission or something?
Hmm. I think so.
I
I
don't.
feel like
I think
go
they're
ahead.
used to it. If that makes sense. Like I don't think like they feel scorned. I think they feel like I feel like she's always had this reception to him, but she's
I
also
see.
maybe listened to
Yeah,
their advice.
I think so
It's
too.
like
Mm,
everybody hates the advisor that keeps coming to give them briefings and gives them only bad news. Nobody likes personality
Yeah.
giving bad news, right? It's like just again to compare to Veep, like how
Kent.
Selena would hate
Kent.
well Kent. Okay, yeah, I was gonna go with Amy, but yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah, that kind of thing is like
Yeah.
I was listening to your advice, but I just don't want to hear you talking 24 hours a day. But it is
Yeah.
funny. It is funny how she like just dismisses all the things that they say. Um, yeah. So I
Maybe
don't
the
know if it's
holding
man's con, but
company
I think it definitely play a part in like I think it feels worse than normal. It feels like not only are you just like I don't know how to put it. Like it feels like she's now not only is she not listening, but she doesn't care. If that
blatant
makes sense.
disregard of
yeah.
Yeah,
him.
and that's because she
Yeah.
has like Herbert to tell her what she wants to hear or what she thinks is the correct thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the story as we wrap up. Then we'll talk about my favorite character of the show in general. So the story is that
Ooh.
um so my initial thinking was that they went too far with the story, but it seems like this is what they wanted. So I guess we'll see what happens next episode. I was like, you've just made this guy basically second in command. That seems like a jump. Well, we'll see what they want to do next episode. So the story is that Herbert is a descendant of one of the nation's founding fathers. There's the three brothers myth is actually a real myth in the real world. That Lech,
Mm.
Zek, and Rush went off to form Poland, Czech Republic, and Russia. Um, Obviously here they're saying that like they had a fourth brother who came and founded this unnamed country, and then Herbert is a descendant of that brother. Um, so I guess the idea now is there will be like a not maybe not church and state, and I don't think it's like would it be like the queen and prime minister in terms of ruling the country? Like they want two rulers, but one is like more figurehead and the other is like more actual ruling.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me. It
I think
seemed like a
so.
sovereign and a
Head of
someone
state.
in charge, a head of state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you wonder is there a point where maybe Herbert might think, okay, like he gets too big for his bridges with
I think
Elena.
that's
It's
where it's going.
like he shouts at like Elena, you can't do that. But it's an interesting place to put it. I would assume that by next week we'll finally see Hugh Grant. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting place to put. I didn't expect this development. I didn't see this development coming in terms of like actually yeah. I'm sorry. What did you guys think of Herbert being? Oh, also it's a lie, right? We're all agreed that it's a lie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
110%.
Okay, okay, it's a lie.
But
Okay.
it made me think about a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe based on what I've been watching recently, it just made me think, okay, but like, what if all of the things we believe are also lies? Because this is very much Messiah. this
Everything
is
is a
like very
story.
much Messiah. Everything, really, honestly, everything is a story. But really, honestly, with like all of these kind of power, what's called, it's all like the chosen
Mm-hmm.
one, the Messiah. Like, because I was recently, Dune and all that jazz and everything.
Dune,
And
Game of Thrones, Harry
Game of Thrones,
Potter. It's
so
just
many
like,
things.
oh, this guy
And
didn't
they
know he had the power within him. Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
literally the
Yeah.
chosen one. He didn't know that had the power within him, and seeing that in this lens is so exciting. But it didn't make me think the same thing as you. Are they going way too far?
Mm-hmm.
Because you see the unveiling of that fantastic painting, by the way, and you're just like, okay, I now see this is a fantastic story, but maybe it's too good, you know?
You've put this guy in too high a power seat. That was my thing. I was like, bro, you guys have gone quite far with this. That
Because
was
can
also what I
Herbert
thought.
be controlled? Because if we think
Yeah.
about like the story arc of this entire episode, it showed us in terms of revealing stuff about Herbert, it showed us that he's actually quite unstable as a person. And the fact that
Say the least.
he's operating the way he is to Elena and to everyone else is really a miracle. And we have that flair when what's her name? Andrea Riseborough's character wants
Mm-hmm.
him to take care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, like you're getting a bit far, like just, relax. You need to like, calm down. So it's the thing of like I understand where they're going, but I'm also like, this could be potentially dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it
what do
would be
you
very
think?
in line for them to have made a monumental miscalculation. Like it'd be so funny if next episode starts with like Nikki just barging into the like, what the fuck were you guys doing? Like that was too far. I don't think that's what happened, but yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting to see how far this goes and whether their plan works. Because their plan is obviously for him to be exalted so highly that he flies too close to the sun and then he burns, right? And then Elena loses interest in him. So let's see. We'll see
Exactly.
what that is. Lade, thoughts on the founding story?
Yeah, I definitely do think it's fake, but
Oh
I
yeah,
also don't think they're considering what if it does backfire though. Like
backfire how?
what makes them think like he'll rise so far
Oh, backfire
above
on
that?
them. Okay,
Yeah, on
You're
them.
right.
yeah.
You're
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
right.
on
mm-hmm.
them. Like what makes them think Elena
You're
is going
right.
to get tired, or she's going to be like they're going to grow, so it's going to happen that their relationship is
Yeah. I mean, I
like
guess.
And
yeah.
I think actually, as you're speaking, it makes me realize two things. Which is one, they underestimate him
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm,
kind of like, but I think they also underestimate her
Yeah.
because in that is it's them deeply underestimating her because they're basically saying, oh, he's just this kind of like he's the butcher,
mm-hmm.
but she's also really gullible. So like even if he tries, she wouldn't really, So I think it's fascinating that you
They're
said.
underestimating what utility he brings because they are basing this based on previous infatuations she's had.
Yeah.
But maybe
Yes,
those were just like eye candy. Like this is not. This is the first time that maybe one of these infatuations is actually doing something in her life and she actually feels a change.
exactly,
She's quote unquote
exactly.
getting rid of these toxins from her body. She's
Yeah,
like she sees um Oscar doing better. So she this is the first time she's actually believing, I guess, the story, for lack of a better phrase. And then yeah, I I don't think it will work. I don't if it works, this will be a very short show. The show will end next episode. So I definitely
Mhm.
think there's a point that they've missed, and I'm trying to see what that is. Um, okay, Agnes, played by Andrea Riseborough,
yes, that's the
is
name.
my
Sorry.
favorite character on this show. I said
So
that last week.
she's also mine. She's also
Yeah.
mine, actually.
When
Mine
she comes
too.
and like Andreas was a great actor. I think I've only seen her in a handful of things, 000, other things. When she comes into the room, there's genuine emotion in her eyes, in her face, as to what this guy is doing. Even before then, when she's talking to her um 2 a.m. boutique call, and she feels sympathy for Herbert. Like she feels genuine. She's like, poor guy, Elena's got in his head. Like she feels sympathy for him. And then actually, I'm just thinking now. Let's like
Do
that
you
just keep
remember the
like
advice she gives him?
yeah. I was gonna say yeah. Actually, let me go. I just thought of something, but yeah, sorry. yeah, first of all, two lines that she has that just show me why she's my favorite character. Because on one hand, she says, "Oh, shush, you ridiculous person." She's hilarious. Her delivery was so good. I was like, "This is an incredible line." It's just like, so shush, you ridiculous person. I'm going to start calling people ridiculous people. I didn't know it was a way I could insult people before. And then she has that
Oh, I
line.
do that.
They are sorry,
I do that.
like you put those two words together, ridiculous person.
Yeah,
That's so interesting. I would never have thought to like put that as a phrase. I like I was like, like, oh, shut up, you
that's
ridiculous
funny.
person. But then yes, she has the advice where she says it's going to be a long road for you. Be careful who you walk it with. And I just like those are the two sides of this character that both the creators of this show and Andrea Resberg put together, where I can believe both lines. I can believe the line when she's genuinely feeling pain for this man, and the line that is just ridiculous and funny. I was just what just came to mind now is I realized why she feels this connection to him because she's also someone whose life has been taken over by Elena in a way. Like,
Yeah.
especially this episode where we get to see that Elena is buying gifts for her son. She's like she gets to do the hard mothering the difficult part, and then Elena gets to just play around with his son, and the son probably loves Elena more. So she probably definitely feels. I'm sure she feels a way of like Elena's involvement in her family and all of that. So she probably sees that like if you let this woman, I won't be surprised if these guys had a connection or a relationship before Elena became chancellor. Like if they were like friends in
Friends.
college or
Yeah.
something like that, or maybe chief of staff when she was running. But and then she was like, "Oh, I'll bring you along because you're my friend." And then she's like, "If you let this woman into your life, she can probably take it over and make it hers, and not realize what she's displaced." So sorry, yeah. So yeah, Agnes is my favorite character. She's force feeding her son lollipops, um, with his medicine because she doesn't believe in
Epilepsy for his
Yeah,
epilepsy.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. I have on my nose that she has to change up her delivery methods. Like she can't keep doing lollipop every day. Like
Yeah.
this boy, like as much as people like this boy will get tired. Make like do how they used to do when we are younger. Make some eba, put the pills in the eba. Just change the delivery method for
Yeah, I
for
did
her
think
son.
I did think what a like ingenious way of giving somebody drugging someone a lollipop. That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
but my problem was like, how is she like gauging the doses though?
Yeah. That
Because she
was my
just
thing
crushes
as
like
well.
5 pills and spreads it across the like. How does she know how much is like?
Yeah,
That didn't really look. It didn't really look scientific. It didn't look like it was an even spread.
yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't, it didn't.
It's probably better than black radish and mustard anyway, so that's fine.
You never know.
Okay, final thoughts on Agnes. Final thoughts on the entire episode. What we want to see going forward.
Holiday, do you want
Um,
to go?
Yeah. Like you said, I really like Agnes. I feel like she might be my favorite character for now because she's funny in like a very quiet way. Um, yeah, the mothering thing, I don't know. I feel like it's a weird dynamic that Elena has with her son. I think it's
mhm.
very strange. And I think is Elena trying to kill him because she ban the pills? Like, did she ban modern medicine from the palace?
I don't know if she. That's an interesting question. I don't know if she banned it, but I think it's one of those things where, like Aisha said earlier, you fall in line.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
said that this is the rule of the palace now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are using modern medicine or quote unquote Western medicine, then
Yeah.
it's like you're going directly against her. And it's like, why are you doing that? So that
Yeah.
the punishment could be a stern. It could range from a stern talking to a hanging. Like we don't
Yeah.
really know how they would react to that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't. But no, she thinks it's working. What we
Yeah.
can say is that she's
she
being
does.
honest.
She
She's
thinks
being
it's
honest. She
working.
believes that this is
Yeah.
the right thing.
Yeah, she
So
believes
she's
it's
not
good
trying to
for
be
him.
ill intent.
She's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, she's not. She's not.
But yeah,
Um,
those are my thoughts. I thought it was a good episode. I liked the pacing of it. I'm excited to see what next week is saying.
yeah. Aisha?
Yeah, I really like Agnes, but I have to say, Nikki is, or Nick, he's coming up in the,
Oh, Nick was
he's
my
like,
MVP of this episode.
he,
He is my MVP
no,
of this particular
like,
episode. I was like,
Think
oh,
about it
that came from
really.
nowhere.
And there's someone behind you and they're chasing your tail, you know? That's how Nick is like really
Yeah.
he's working hard 9 to 5 with me right now. And he may take the cake. But yeah, no, I think that advice that Agnes gave to Herbert really,
Mhm.
really stuck with me because I was like, it's a long road for you. Be careful who you walk it with. I think it showed actually that on the surface, perhaps there is an overt manipulation of Elena from Herbert, but there really is an influence. Elena really has influenced him and
Yeah.
has actually affected his life. And I think that
Hmm.
advice, be careful who you walk it with, is important because I think, I don't know, maybe I have a thing for tortured men. I don't know what it is, but basically, I just think
Ooh,
it's
are we getting some
also
of that dating backstory now? Just slowly, we're getting the drops. They're like, we know who is.
drops.
Aisha has a few commas in her in her history. She's like,
What is that torture the tortured men? That's a group chat that
Poets,
Paul
Tortured
Mescal
Poets Club.
oh no, that's her new album. But you know she named it after Tortured Men, which was Paul
Yeah.
Mescal. I think Paul
"Wh-
Mescal, Joe
what
Alwyn, and
is
someone else, they
Owen.
what
have a
is
group
Yeah.
chat.
going on? You guys need to.
Okay,
No, no,
Bankole,
explain.
this is actually really important. I know it's been so. Taylor Swift is releasing a new album in April, which
Okay,
she announced on the Grammy stage, and it's
yeah, I
called
know
the
that part.
Tortured Poets Department. And she
Okay,
Yeah.
named it after a group chat that her ex boyfriend of maybe 6 years, Joe Alwyn, had with Paul Mescal and I think Andrew Scott and maybe some other person called the Tortured Men, or something like that.
was that based on characters that they play, or they think they are tortured men?
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
I think they probably spend a lot of
Who
time
knows?
thinking about where those two converge, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
But that's
So
completely
is
fair. I
like
mean, I can't say I don't do the same in my group chat. So,
so it's like Taylor Swift like really just like because full disclosure, I'm not someone that listens to Taylor Swift music, but I don't have anything against her. Is
oh,
she
shock
someone that like
horror. Oh.
yeah, I know, right? It's like look, I need to uphold what people think about me. I need to uphold the stereotypes. No, but like is she like really just
God.
veering into the I guess the internet's understanding or like naming an album after your ex's group chat is like what people do you get what I mean? It's like the joke people were making
Yeah,
about Taylor Swift three
I
years
know what
ago.
you mean, but I would say that she was way worse in her youth and then took a break and became a bit covert and I think has now gone back to her like kind of like her origins, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Because Taylor Swift has a song called Style. Like, come on, let's not. Like she's been doing this for time. But anyway, so going back to what I was saying, but I
I need to
think
know people. I need to know people on this group chat. I'm sorry, I just need to know who's on this group chat. But that's
that's what
not
I
for
want to know
now.
too. But apparently, those are the only two people that we know about. But I'm gonna do some Reddit research tonight. That's what I'm gonna spend with my dinner. I'm gonna have a nice side dish of Reddit, and I can assure you, Bankole, that once we come back next week, I will come back and I'll report back to the viewers. I know they
Thank,
want to know, and
thank
I'll
you very
do the
much.
Lord's work, and I'll be back. Anyway,
Thank you very much.
it's I think that kind of, if we think about the whole episode, that advice that she gives him is really a huge foreboding because I do think
Mm-hmm,
he's incredibly unstable,
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
and I think that will start to show in different ways. um and Agnes maybe is kind of the viewer's perspective of that because she
mm-hmm.
is, she's not Elena level, but also not Herbert level. So she has this kind of neutrality, but
Mm.
also is has this like steadfast. She's a bit like, how would I say, she's, yeah, a sense of normalcy, that she brings like a nice sense of normalcy to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
show, weird way,
yeah,
and she's maybe our eyes as we watch the
yeah,
show. So yeah, but
yeah.
I really liked it, and it just shows like what the show is trying to do. I just think when you think about it, it's trying to do so many things, and I think it's succeeding at operating at all those levels. And like you
Mm-hmm,
said, having each character not be like a backstory, but have like an adjacent story going alongside the
yeah.
main character or the main
Mm-hmm,
storyline. So yeah, no, I liked it.
yeah. I agree. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. This has been a great conversation. It's always so funny when like I don't know if I've become too dependent on like discourse culture, like good discourse culture, where like I don't have my like final thoughts on something until I discuss it with somebody else. And yeah, I think this has made me realize how much I am actually enjoying the show. Um, Like I knew I liked it, but it made me realize how much I'm actually enjoying it. So it was a great conversation. Thank you guys. We'll be
You're
back to episode 3
welcome.
next week.
And I'll be
Hope
back with the goss, you know.
you will be. Hopefully. And yeah, I mean, guys, listen to our Oscars reactions episode. Should be
Yes,
out, if not now,
Bankole
very soon.
is is pushing me out like the slave driver that he is.
Oh
Oh
my
my god.
So
god.
if you guys want to support me and the exploitation of my skills, then please can you listen to these episodes? I
I
know
mean,
some
it took you
maybe
like 2 weeks to call me a slave driver, which is like honestly, I don't even know if that's quicker than everybody else on the podcast. Like, I literally think every single other person on the podcast has called me a slave driver. So that's like,
I
I'm
didn't
beginning to wear
succumb
it as
to
a badge of honor.
propaganda too quickly,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
when one sees something, they can't pretend like it's not what it
Uh,
is.
well, it seems like you wouldn't fit well in the unnamed nation of Middle Europe then, because this country is all about having a blind eye. Uh, but yeah, no, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Aisha and Lodi, for being on, for
Of
having a great conversation with
course.
me. And then we'll be back to talk about more of the regime, episode 3 through 6 in the coming weeks. Yeah. Any final thoughts you guys want to say? Anybody want to shout out?
Nope.
Okay. Any of the ex like
Shout out
troubled men?
Nikki.
Any of the ex troubled
Or
men you want to
any
shout out, Aisha?
I
They
thought
might be
you
less
had Lord
troubled
there.
now. It's apparently spin the block season. They might be less troubled now. You never know.
I'm not. No, no, no.
Okay.
Do
Thank you guys
not
for
call
listening.
my line, okay? Do not call my line,
Call. I think you
please.
should call. If she then answers, that's on her. I
Not.
think you
Do
just call.
not message me. You guys know
Do you
who I
not have?
am, okay? You know who I am. You know what the consequences would be. Don't message me,
I just.
please. Thank you
I think
very
you should call
much.
a message. If you're listening, call a message. If she wants to answer, that's on her. Thank you guys for listening. Join us next week when we'll be joined by the one, the only, the greatest troubled man I know, Daniel Kaluuya. Bye,
Ooh, ooh,
guys.
ooh.